So in the subject design of machine elements 2, basically we focus on the design of power transmitting elements. So under which we will learn the details in detail about we will learn in detail about the bearings, lubrication, bearings, and we will learn about the power transmitting elements like gears, and finally the belt drives. So this is how this course is structured, and in this class I will give you an introduction about the general bearing, how it is being used, or what is the working principle of a general bearing. So we know that lubrication is a very important, plays a very important role in the case of power transmission, because we have to deal with many relative motions. Sometimes the relative motions can be rotational, sometimes it can be sliding. So based upon that, we have to provide some kind of lubrication, right, to reduce the friction. So our primary aim is to reduce the power loss, so that we can be obtained only by providing lubrication. So for that we are using lubricants. Now let's move on to the general bearing and see what are the basic things we should keep in our mind before we go to the design procedure. So this is the bearing classification. So if we look at the bearings, we can say that the bearings are mainly divided into two. One is the anti-friction bearings and second one is the friction bearings. So anti-friction bearings are mainly dealing with the rotation motion. So this is mainly related with the rotation motion. But here this is related to sliding. This is sliding motion. So when two surfaces slides over each other, so we have a relative motion, and here we have a rotation motion. It is rolling one over the other. So this is how the basic classification of the bearing will look like, and under each category we have got different sets of bearing. So we have, for anti-friction bearings, we have got ball bearings as well as roller bearings. So even ball bearings has got also various divisions. These are just three. These are not the only divisions. We have got many other self-aligning type, double groove type. All these types of bearings are there under the ball bearings. Similarly for the roller bearings also. So different categories are there. So all these things will be learned in this chapter, and our initial discussion point will be the general bearing. So what exactly, or how exactly a general bearing will look like? So something like this. You are very familiar with this one. It's a plumber block, or it's called as a general bearing. So you can see that through this hole we support a shaft, right? So this shaft is being given some kind of lubrication, and that is called as the general bearing. So we have got different padding materials, everything. We have got this golden color, that sometimes it's brass, low friction materials are being provided, but inside this we have got some oil. So if you take the cross section, it will look something like this. We have a shaft which is transmitting some amount of power as well as torque. It is carrying some amount of load. That load is being given here. So this is a general bearing. If you take the cross section, we can say that this is a shaft which carries a load, and we have an outer casing that is called as the bearing, which contains some oil. So this is the oil or lubricant. We will say that's lubricant. And to be more specific, it is called as the oil wedge, providing the hydrodynamic lift. So don't worry about all those things, because I'm going to explain in detail about this wedging action, what is hydrodynamic things, everything. But in general, this is how a general bearing will look like. But you may wonder why it is called as a bearing, or how this can be called as a bearing. See, only thing you should keep in your mind is that if you can provide a lubricating layer between two sliding surfaces, that is a bearing, right? Simply if you can provide if you can separate two surfaces by a film of lubricant, that's a bearing. So here also something like that happens. If you look at this figure very closely, we can say that a small layer of fluid is there in between the shaft and the bearing, and this shaft is called as the journal. We are not calling it as shaft, we are calling it as journal. So this journal is inside the bearing. So this entire assembly is called as the journal bearing. So this is how it will look like. Now what we are going to learn is how this bearing action takes place. So what is the physics, what happens within the bearing when it comes to the action? That is the most important part we have to learn in this general bearing. because we have to understand how this works. Then only we will be able to design it. Without identifying the proper working condition, we cannot design a bearing. So that's how we have to learn it. So this is the basic sketch, and now let's move forward and see the features. Now we have to understand what exactly is hydrostatic lubrication and hydrodynamic lubrication. It's very important. So what exactly is hydrostatic lubrication and hydrodynamic lubrication? See, hydrodynamic lubrication means initially we don't have a fluid layer between two surfaces, but in course of time, as motion pickups or rotation pickups, as speed pickups, a fluid layer is being created between two surfaces because of the hydrodynamic action. That's the most important part. It's because of the hydrodynamic action a fluid layer is being developed within the material. So that's what we are going to learn under hydrodynamic lubrication. So here it depends upon the relative speed between the surfaces, oil viscosity, load on the surfaces, clearance between the moving surfaces. All these parameters will contribute to the development of this kind of fluid layer. So what's the physics happening there? How this oil film is being created based upon the speed, viscosity, load and clearance. All these things we are going to discuss in the coming slides. That means initially we don't have a lubrication, but as the time progresses, as the motion occurs, what happens? We have a lubricating system within the arrangement. But that's not the case of hydrostatic lubrication. In hydrostatic lubrication, we are not waiting for a motion to occur, but initially we are forcefully creating a fluid layer between the two surfaces. So it depends upon the inlet pressure. So what is the need for this inlet pressure? Inlet pressure is being given to forcefully creating a fluid layer between the two surfaces. That's the sole purpose. So one is developing by its own, second one is forcefully created. Right? We are not going to discuss about the hydrostatic lubrication because our discussion point will be completely limited to the hydrodynamic lubrication. This hydrodynamic lubrication is otherwise called as a fluid film, thick film lubrication or flooded lubrication. Thick film lubrication, thin film lubrication will be discussed later, but just for your information, I will explain it like this. You should have a layer between the two surfaces, and that layer should make sure that there is no physical contact between these two solid surfaces. At any point of time in the operation, there should not be any kind of metal to metal contact. So in order to have a leak proof or a solid layer between these two surfaces, there should be a thick film passing between the two surfaces, and so it is called as a thick film lubrication. So thick in the sense means we are not expecting anything in the range of mm. It is still in the microns level, but still that is also called as that micron level thickness is sufficient to separate the metal parts. So that is also called as the thick film lubrication. Now the thick film of lubricant is interposed. That's what I have told you, right? Now just because of this, there will be a pressure build up in the film due to the relative motion, because all these factors will give us. We know that as the load increases, what happens? The pressure that is being imparted into the oil also changes. So pressure is being built up in the system. So that is also a feature of hydrodynamic lubrication. But that's not the case of hydrostatic, because initially itself we are pressurizing the fluid. There is no variation. But here we have a variation. Now the fluid friction is substituted for sliding friction. Obviously we know that when there is a layer of liquid between the two surfaces, the viscosity of that layer will be the one which is going to determine the friction between two. And coefficient of friction is very much low because we have low coefficient of frictions for the lubricants. That's one of the major properties of the lubricants, right? And finally, it is relevant in the journal and thrust bearings. So for axial loads and for radial loads, for thrust loads also, these journal bearings are very efficient. Now let's look into the physics behind this hydrodynamic lubrication. So what happens when two surfaces slides each other? if we look into this picture, we can say that this surface is sliding in one direction, and this is stationary. Velocity of the bottom plate is 0, and we have a fluid film in between these two layers. So as the upper one slides, we can say that the top layer will have the same velocity as the plate, but the bottom surface of the lubricant will be having the velocity as 0, since the bottom plate is stationary. So the velocity profile will be something like this. Okay, now there is no pressure built up because the fluid is consistently flowing. Sliding happens, so it remains constant throughout, influenced only by the load. Because if the load is constant, we can say that there will not be any kind of pressure variation, unless otherwise if we change the load, we cannot expect a pressure variation. So pressure variation can develop only because of by changing the load when we consider a parallel surface. Okay. Now hydrodynamic lubrication. Now let's see what happens if the plate is inclined. So the complete picture changes. See, if you have an inclined plate, we can see that there is an oil wedge happens here. So this shape is something peculiar. So when such a kind of inclination takes place, there will be a drag force and a lift force will arise, because the normal force, this is a normal force. This normal force has got two components, the x direction as well as the y direction. So the y direction component is called as the lift force, and the x component is called as the drag force. Don't worry about all these things, because we are not going to use all these drag or lift force in the design. This consider this as an introductory part. Okay. Now the surface are inclined, it creates a wedging action. So definitely, as the oil moves or the surface moves, what happens? There will be a pressure variation just because of this oil wedge. So a pressure buildup will be there just because of the compression of this fluid between the two surfaces. So such kind of pressure buildup will also there. That pressure buildup will help to carry larger loads. That's the one of the most important things that we should keep in our mind. Right now, how this can be utilized, or how this wedging action is being used in the hydrodynamic theory of journal bearing is most important. So as we told that we have a journal, this is the shaft or journal, it's already given here, and we have an oil wedge here. So you can see that the shape of the oil itself is in the form of a wedge. You can see here. So when we have a wedge shape here, definitely wedging action has to happen. What is wedging action? So as the wedge moves in one direction, motion happens in the perpendicular direction. That's how it works. Right? Now the oil wedge forms between the shaft and journal bearing due to the eccentric nature. You look here. Here, if you take the bearing, this is the center of the bearing, but this is going to be the center of the shaft. So if you look here, we can see that we have an eccentricity. It is not concentric. If it was concentric, both will have the same center, but unfortunately they are eccentric. They should be eccentric in a hydrodynamic bearing. Right? Now let's see how this wedging action creates a fluid film between the layer. And this is how the pressure distribution and the velocity distribution, we can see that as we move forward, the velocity will increase, and at the center, towards the center, we have a maximum pressure, and on the either side, usually we consider it as a zero pressure, inlet and outlet. Right? This is the basic velocity distribution and pressure distribution in a wedge. But this principle is being used in the journal bearing, but not exactly like this. This may not be the shape. We are just keep in your mind that we are talking about the wedge, right? Wedge is the only thing that we have to keep in our mind. Wedging action. So the wedging effect of the oil. So let's see how this bearing action takes place. It's a very important thing. So journal bearing, the process at startup. So this is a very important question. Here I am going to explain what exactly is the hydrodynamic action. Hydrodynamic action. Right, with these three sketches you can easily understand. See, this is the condition at n equal to 0. N means speed. It is not rotating. It's not rotating. So in the stationary condition, here we have a solid metal to metal contact. It is filled with oil. It is also stationary. The oil is also not moving since the speed is 0. But as n increases, n is greater than n, the journal has started, the shaft has started. What happens? Because of the reactive force, this journal will shift to one side and it will touch this position. Initially, this was the position. Now it has changed to this position. Right? So when this motion happens, when the shaft starts to rotate, what happens? This motion creates a motion in the fluid or the lubricant. There will be a motion in the lubricant. And how that motion takes place? You look here. So as the shaft rotates, you have a motion which starts from here, which comes to here, right? So these two parts are called as, part is called as the divergent part, divergent zone, and this part is called as the convergent zone. So it is diverging from here, it is converging here. But you have to keep one thing in your mind, that the oil has got only the space here to move around. You don't have any other space to move around. So it will be moving around through this divergent and convergent zone. Right. Now, as again, if you consider one more sketch, again if n2 increases, if let's say if it is rotating at a speed of n2, it will shift to some other location. Say that this is n2 greater than n1. Again the speed has increased. What happens as the speed increases? The amount of fluid flow, the force in which the journal transmits to the fluid also increases. As a result, the fluid will be flowing from the divergent zone to the convergent zone with more force. So when you compare this case with this one, we can say that the force that is being possessed by the oil is very high, or it is increasing, and still it is traveling in the divergent zone and the convergent zone. Right? Now again we are increasing the speed. Finally it has reached the speed of n3 greater than n2 greater than n1 greater than n. Say n3 is the operating speed or the final speed or anything. What happens? As the speed increases, the amount of force that is being imparted into the fluid film has also increased, right? And it becomes very difficult for the fluid or the lubricant to travel from the divergent zone to the convergent zone and again coming back to this position. That's very difficult because it has attained sufficient amount of force. So what happens? When the lubricant takes sufficient amount of force, you might remember the wedging concept that we have discussed in the previous slide. That wedging concept will come into picture, and we have a lift force and a drag force, and that lift force will pick this shaft upwards. You look here we have a physical contact, but that particular lift force will lift this shaft to some elevated position, and because of that the oil will travel through the shortest path to the divergent zone from the convergent zone. Okay, now that's how a thin film of lubricant develops between the shaft or the journal and the bearing. So it's a very thin film of lubrication. It's not in the range of mm, it's in the range of microns. A film of lubrication has developed by the hydrodynamic action of the bearing. So it is called as the hydrodynamic bearing. So one thing we can conclude it from here is that initially at the starting condition and at the stopping condition, here we have a metal to metal contact, because only when it reaches a speed of n3 a bearing action will come into picture. Till then we have a metal to metal contact. From one point it is hitting and is jumping to some other point, and this kind of some kind of tuck tuck noise will be there. and after some point of time, as the speed reaches N3, there will be a continuous film between the journal and the bearing, and further there will not be any sound. So the same tuck tuck sound will develop when we switch off the machine also, because when we switch off, the speed is going to decrease from N3 towards N, and thereby the amount of force possessed by the fluid decreases, thereby it will lose its capacity to hold this shaft, and finally there will be metal to metal contact, and finally it comes to rust. So this is if we travel from this side to this side, we have this is a starting condition, and reverse is the stopping condition. So this is the basic concepts of hydrodynamic lubrication, and this is how a film of oil is being developed within the general bearing. So very important question. Sometimes they will ask, explain the theory of hydrodynamic lubrication. So you are supposed to explain with this sketch. You have to explain about the wedging action, wedge of oil. What is the concept of wedge of oil? And here we can see that the oil is being surrounded around the shaft, 360 degree. We are giving a bearing action. So this is also called as 360 degree bearing or full bearing, full journal bearing. This is the other name, right? So this is how the hydrodynamic action takes place. So in the next class, I will explain the features that affects the hydrodynamic lubrication. What are the factors, or what are the variables that is going to affect the hydrodynamic lubrication? Thank you.